To Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson. Welcome back to my beautiful full disclosure channel. I am so excited today. I have been watching this great man for absolutely years and years and years, and he has honored me with a broadcast. And as always, we see the beautiful picture of his dog, Peru, but I would like to welcome the one, the only, Gene Decode. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Doing good, Danny. It's nice to meet you, and thank you for having me on your platform.
Oh, it's my honor. Now, I have to ask you a couple of questions to start because over these many years, people have tried to keep the two of us separated. That's happened with quite a few people in the field of disclosure. So I have to ask you directly, Gene Decode, is you a gray ET?
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not originally from Earth, but I'm certainly not a programmed life form like a gray. Grays
Excellent.
actually come as Zeta Reticuli or confused with them. The gray is actually a built mixture of organic and inorganic materials that's a programmed life form.
Totally. Also, are you FBI or CIA?
Never have been.
Okay, now we've got that out the way. You know, the people that are programmed to listen to people who tried to keep people separated, they can now calm down and we can enjoy a lovely conversation. So you came to my awareness years ago when you were sharing information on the deep underground military bases, which we're going to go into a bit. But I do want to say, our lovely friend, Dr. Christiane Northrup, she's the reason why we're connected because she connected the two of us. And years ago, we were in Mexico, her and I, and we were doing what's called, it was a conference called Burning Mask. And it was given by our lovely friend who's since passed away, Mautataki, better known as Huna Flash. And it was Huna Flash at the table, David Mahoney, who you know, and me and Dr. Christiane. And she was telling us about you. And she was telling us how incredibly fit you are. Fit beyond fit, but on fit. You can scale a wall. You can, you're really, really fit. And of course, there's the whole martial arts side of you, which I hope we'll get into a bit. And so, yeah, so then I kind of got to hear more about you as a person. But I'm just so delighted that, we can share with people your work and your kind of background. So can I just hand the floor to you while we gaze at beautiful Peru and you share for those that don't know your background, your military background, and anything that's led you to your work revealing the DUMS, please, and take your time.
Well, probably my martial arts is what got me awake to the world, along with my ability to remember things that I guess most people don't. I thought pretty much growing up everybody did, but what woke me up to everything about what's the deep state and all of that is when most people go to sleep, their consciousness actually transmutes over for at least some period of the time. For me, it was the entire night, all the way from the day I was born up until I had this massive awakening experience of antimatter Earth. There's an antimatter universe and then a positive matter. And on antimatter Earth, the deep state, as it's called here, has been in control, and humanity has been in concentration camps for 200 plus years. And I'm in the resistance in underground tunnels and things, sneaking into the camps and trying to tell people to fight back and wake up because there's not enough guns and bullets in the camp to stop them all. And living for 35 years in absolute horrific, terrible conditions as an absolute slave isn't living. You're just surviving, and you don't really have a life. They don't have names. You have a number. You don't look unless you're up at anyone, unless you're spoken to. You, there's no laughter. There's nothing. Parents don't know who their children are, vice versa, and it's horrific. So in that world, there was a term which, strangely enough, is a pretty common term I had never heard of until I got pretty high in rank, and I was over and over and over and over trying to get to the next step up. I made first steps really fast, and then I couldn't make this next step. And when I finally, the guy I worked underneath, who had time and rank on me, was the only reason he was my boss. He got advanced, and I asked him, why was it because of the quota? Because at that time in the military, and I think they still have it, you have to have so many Asians, so many black, different groups ranked. And I said, is it because of the quota? And he said, yes. And I said, is it the other guy in the other building, which he made the next step above him, the same case? Because I've talked to the people that works for him, and they said he's an idiot, and the morale's terrible, and the guy knows nothing. So how did he make it? Is it the same reason? He said no. And he said he's in this group. He named it, and I'd never heard that word on this earth. It was on antimatter earth, and it was a word of absolute terror. And we didn't even see it in the tunnels. And so I was just like, whoa. And I froze, and it felt like somebody poured a bucket of ice water down my back. And so from that point on, I asked him what it was, and he said it's a black American group, or a black group worldwide, a secret group. And that's the opposite of what it is essentially here. But I said, as I started investigating, I go, well, I guess because that's antimatter earth, it's the opposite here. But in the process, I was trying to prove, because on that world, I know where all the material were kept before they destroyed them. So I was trying to prove it wasn't true here, that there wasn't a secret society in charge of everything on Earth and owning everything and controlling everything. And so I immediately went to the Supreme Court Law Library. I was in Hawaii at the time, went downtown Honolulu, and went down in the archives in the basement, and they call it the tombs. And I had a clearance so I can get into stuff that most people can't get into. Showed my ID and all that. And that was on a Friday, and I researched it till Sunday evening, nonstop, no sleep, nothing. And the guy that worked there kept coming back, clocking me in because he had to go home and the whole place is locked up, and I'm in there. And he'd come back the next, Saturday, come back Sunday, and he's like, "What are you doing?" "I'm having a nervous breakdown." I had huge books and ledgers, and the funding and the budget for the United States for many, many decades all over the place, making all kinds of notes and drawings. And he goes, "Oh, what about?" And I go, "I'm not 100% sure yet where I am in this, but if it's true, which it looks like it is, I didn't want it to be, we're pretty, in a lot of a really bad situation, to put it minorly, in a small way." And so from that time on, I just kept going further and further into things and learning more and more of things because of what I knew from the antimatter earth. And it's all here. It's just about 200 years lagging in some cases, or 10, 20 years in some cases. So, people that I knew there, I met. Technology that was there was invented here later, like 20, 30 years later. So lasers and, the black helicopters and all that stuff. And then the DUMS was part of that as well. So I said, well, they don't even bother using them anymore. Some of the tunnels we were using were actually ones they had just left behind. And so I knew about that, and I started researching it here as well. And being in Hawaii, King Kamehameha actually had secret tunnels he used to get from one side of the island faster than paddling around the outside of the island. And people thought he was a god because he could just show up on one side and then the other side way faster than should be humanly possible.
Yeah.
And so he was using lava tube tunnels that that's Princess. I think it's Kapiolani's palace represents it. There's a stairwell that goes underneath from east to west and over from north to south under the building, and it represents how those tunnels run. So I actually went down to Kaina Point and found the tunnel, the big, huge lava tube that comes from Kaina Point and goes out all the way at the other end through Diamond Head. And it's got a huge steel grate. It's big enough to nearly fly a 767 into. It is massive. And then I found the other tunnels later on as well because of the way I am of rock climbing and backpacking and just bushwhacking through things. I would go up the koalas and literally go down the ridges with legs straddling the ridges till I could get down to a valley and go down valleys. It's amazing if you do that. It's phenomenal and exciting, and you find things that people haven't seen in sometimes 50, 60, 70, or 300 or 400 years. I found ancient Hawaii heiaus that no one had been in. I found a down Japanese Zero that still had the pilot, just the bones, and a little bit of his uniform still on the bones. Uh,
Really?
yeah,
Goodness.
and I'm sure I'm the first person that had ever happened on that plane. So, and in the process, I found about the DUMBs, and then I started really, really researching into that and everything else. So that's kind of how I got started, through that. And then also, of course, my martial arts dovetailed into that as well, because, I've always been a warrior type person of standing up for myself, and I think people should stand up for themselves and have their boundaries and their rights and freedom and all of that. And
Yeah.
so that dovetailed into it as well. So back to you, Danny.
That's incredible. It's interesting too, how all of us on this journey of this life, and those of us that step out, put ourselves out, like I do and like you do in different ways, but very similar ways, being very public or very vocal in revealing information. It's always interesting to me to map where geologically, physically, these people I connect to have been on the planet. And I also too lived in Hawaii. My main island was Kauai, and I've been going there for over 20 years before I lived there. And I also came across things and made discoveries and felt like, well, knew I was in these completely isolated, ancient, situations. It's so magical there. And I have this theory that we, as the beings in these bodies on this planet at this time, in this lifetime that we're in currently, is that we, as we move through these different areas and places we're drawn to, we retrieve more of our soul from wherever, from whenever. I'm convinced of that. It's just a theory that I have, but yeah, it's just amazing to hear. So, okay, so you mentioned earlier that you were in the Navy. Can you help us understand why somebody with a Navy background would be looking at underground facilities? Can you put that together for us?
Well, again, it actually came about, from the time when I woke up in 1990 about all this stuff, and I was on my last tour where I retired in Hawaii, and I was working on Ford Island in Pearl Harbor, and excuse me, the submarines, the ballistic missile submarines, were pulling in, and every lunch I would run the entire perimeter of the island. To the edge of the island it's not a big island, so to have enough, uh, you know, distance in my run, I'd literally run on the edge of the piers on the wood and jump over the bollards and all kinds of things and drop down in some places where you could on the rocks on the beach sometimes. And so in the process of doing that, if they have an SSBN and it's offloading its missiles, ballistic missiles, that's cordoned off and you have to run way up and around and back down again. And so it was week after week, I kept seeing the ballistic missiles submarines coming in and offloading their missiles. I mean, with one, okay, maybe something happened. But one time you get to the third one, you're going, what are we doing? We're disarming? The U.S. is, and I'm looking at all the intel I can, and Russia's not disarming, and UK's not disarming. Why are we disarming? So I decided to follow a flatbed with two missiles on it. So what I did is I parked at the ferry landing, took the ferry in the next day, and then when I got off the ferry, I ran to my car as quickly as possible so that I could follow this big, huge semi with a flatbed with two SSBN, two ballistic missiles on it. And I followed this truck into Halimanu Crater, which is military housing. And those are really tiny. It's not a big crater. And that's a long truck. And it starts going in there. And I'm like, how's he even going to get that thing out of there? Because if you turn anywhere in there, you're not going to be able to get it out. And so I immediately, when I was behind him, not close to make it look like something dangerous, I followed him at reasonable distance. I drove up on the rim of the crater to look down, parked my car at an overlook, and I was looking down, and the truck drove straight into the side of the crater. I mean, literally into this. There used to be an ammo facility in World War II there. This steel doors welded shut, and they drove straight into the wall of those doors. They weren't open, and it didn't crash into it. And the truck is longer than the width of the crater wall there. And I can tell by the way if you're looking at the back end of a big long flatbed, and the cab is turning, the flatbed will start to turn as well. It didn't. It was going straight, and it kept going straight all the way until it was gone. And I'm like, your mind is thinking physics, right? If this thing's like over half longer than the width of the crater wall, and the fact it didn't crunch anyway. So I drove down there after about 30 minutes, and I rock climbed. So I climbed up around it, knocking dirt and rocks, and I'm touching. It feels real. The rocks feel real. It feels really solid. I don't understand. So I drove back up on the crater, and I waited till about 9:30 at night, and the truck came out with the flatbed straight out, like he'd turned around in there, and no missiles on it at all. And I'm like, now I'm really confused, So,
Yeah.
so that was the process of beginning
Wow.
to figure out about the dumps. And then once I retired, I drove all over the country, keeping my eyes open and researching and doing all kinds of things. And, quite a few places you can see things that are incredibly, ridiculously obvious that there's a dump there.
Right.
Like you'll be out in the middle of a swampy area, and there's a huge concrete pillar coming out, and on the top is a manhole cover, and it's way up above wherever the water line we'd ever get. And you're going, yeah, somebody came out here and put a concrete pillar with an access cover, or there's sewage facilities, and there's nothing near here.
Right. Right.
It's like, yeah, or you'll be driving along in a desert, and you'll see a series of power cables that are as big around as a submarine, and like 12 or 15 going straight into the ground. Turning and going straight in. The ground needs lots of power here.
Wow.
So I'm like, another, or you'll see ventilation ducts, kind of like little ventilation things coming out of the ground. Oh, the ground needs aeration. So it becomes really, really obvious. Or another one, because I love to go backpacking, and I would see, take with my 4x4 with my Jeep, I'd get way out in the desert, and I would sometimes take, really remote roads on BLM land, Bureau of Land Management, or federal lands that are okay for you to go out and just kind of camp out on. And I would see all kinds of trucks going by all night long. Come night, trucks would be going by. I thought it was going to be quiet out here.
Oh,
It's like
God.
truck after truck after truck after truck. Here goes an SUV, a black SUV, a black SUV. Oh my word! It's like Grand Central Station here. It's like I'm on the freeway. It's like parked next to I'm camping near the freeway. It's terrible.
Wow.
And I'm like, where are they going? So the next morning, I get up and I follow the tracks. It goes out to a little tiny freaking building. That has a kind of a sloping roof going into the ground. I'm like, aha, a dumb. So I
Right.
started marking and researching, and of course, then going to the information from Phil Snyder and from Milton Cooper, who wrote Behold a Pale Horse and that, and then continuing on from there. And once the internet came available, because when I was in, they didn't have it was just the very infancy when I retired. It wasn't even fully developed yet. So once that came out, then you can do a lot of research and get a lot of information. And then also, because of my connection with God, pretty much anything I ask, I get the answer to it. So, or somebody shows up. And I've had people show up that are talking about things that most people don't believe are real, like the Philadelphia experiment. I met two people that were on the ship because I wanted to know if it had happened for real. And so I was giving a talk in Capilani Park at a HIV fundraiser to raise money for a treatment. And since I'd done all the research and I knew 16 cures, I'd get up. After they had that, everybody, all the main speakers talked. Anybody have anything they'd like to add? And I'd raise my hand. And because I thought people suffering would want to know. And they, time I got done talking, 2,000 people sitting out in the grass, there's 5 or 10 people sitting there. And so usually a few homeless people and that, we're sitting listening. And this one homeless man, my third time came up and he asked me, he goes, you're interested in all kinds of esoteric stuff. Would you like to meet a guy off the Eldridge? I said, absolutely. And so he said, give me your number. And if he checks that you're okay, he'll call you. And he called me and I went over to the other side of the island. And sure enough, he had a picture of himself in his third class radioman uniform sitting on the port side of the fantail of the Eldridge. And I have the movie with the original cut in it of the experiment, and that was him. So, and I could tell that it was him. He was much older, but and then 2 weeks after that, coming back from Fort Island, I met another guy that had been on the Eldridge as well, who had lost his right hand.
Good
And he'd
Lord.
obviously become completely telepathic because in looking at him, I just got this feeling, you get that feeling about something, about someone. And finally he looked at me and he goes, in answer to your question, which I hadn't said anything, the answer is yes. I said, oh, I see you're telepathic. He goes, since that situation, yes. And he goes, that's how I lost my hand. And so he talked to me while we rode over. So, I keep having all of these. Same with my martial arts. When I decided to get into martial arts, I wound up getting probably the best martial arts instructors on earth every single time. So when
That's
you ask God, you get exactly what you're asking for. Just make sure you want
Make
it.
sure you want it. Be careful what you wish for. Well, back to was it the formerly known as the SS Eldridge? Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So at the moment, I'm working with a man called Chris Lauterer. He's a French Canadian, and he went through the Montauk Camp Hero program. Him and other little 6-year-old boys from his school in the oh goodness me, I'm saying Manitoba area, but regardless, he is connected because there's a lot of different stories and testimonies from different people about the SS Eldridge and that whole experiment. He believes himself to be the child known as Duncan Cameron. And I wanted to know what the name of the people that you met. Are you able to say their names and who they believe themselves to be?
No, they asked me to keep it quiet, but I have read the Montauk series and do know of Duncan Cameron from that series of books, which is a fantastic series of books.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm working with Chris. He's another kind of survivor of a situation where he passionately, deeply is trying to share his story. And so right now I'm supporting him. And then a couple of weeks ago, it's Brad Olson, Laura Eisenhower, and JP, all friends of mine, went to Camp Hero and took some video. And they're looking around the kind of markers, the concrete markers, how you would recognize a dam, where an opening is, etc. And then I'm bringing them all on together with Chris to discuss that event, and then we're going to share some of his CIA papers. But it's a very, very hot topic at the moment because we're all demanding full disclosure of everything. Everyone has the right to go after everything. I don't think anybody should respect anyone who's kept anything hidden at this stage. And that awful term, the humans aren't ready. The humans are going to go bloody crazy when they find out exactly what has been happening and what's been kept from them. And we are more than ready for everything. This is our planet. You know what I mean? It's time to reveal everything. So that's kind of fascinating. So, what age would you put the two men at roughly that had been on that experiment?
So this was 1990 and let's see, 1991 that I met these two men. So uh, at that time, they were, I guess, in their 50s and 60 area time. I didn't ask their age. I'm just guessing by how they looked.
Yeah. And for those that don't know what the Philadelphia experiment is, and lots of people don't, and that's okay, could you explain to us your understanding of that, please?
Well, it didn't actually happen in Philadelphia Harbor. I just learned that recently, but we'll stay with that. They took a ship called the USS Eldridge using 3 Sage radars, and a lot of power, and counter-rotating them such that they created a shift in, like they do with electrogravitics. But what they did is they created a shift in the space-time. And time is two dimensions. There's four dimensions of space: height, width, depth, and inwards. And then there's linear time and spiral time. So they caused the ship. People think they're in linear time. You're not. You're actually in spiral time. Uh, Although most people tend to focus their consciousness in a linear mode. And so they shifted the ship. The idea was to shift the ship 45 degrees from what they see, the time vectors T1, T2, from T1 to T2 to make it radar invisible. It went radar invisible, then it went completely invisible. Then it went to Boston Harbor 20 years into the future. And then it came back because it had gone into a warp field or its own little universe with a power supply inside to keep it able to keep going. And then, from my understanding, Al Bielek and Duncan Cameron actually got off the ship and got some technology about nuclear weapons and brought it back. That was actually the real reason for the experiment, from my understanding, was to get how to detonate a nuclear device. They were afraid at this time that if they did detonate, it could cause a catastrophic chain reaction, turning the Earth into a star. And so they wanted to get that information about the last details of how to get a nuclear device to control its reaction and learn the last two details of nuclear devices, because they had actually, most people, this is something I don't think anyone's ever come out and said, that they had test detonated a very small nuclear device before anything else. And it had a nuclear yield, a big mess of nuclear radiation, but nothing else. And so that was the other concern, is it wouldn't work at all. And so what they brought back is that nuclear energy, nuclear blasts, have three requirements to create an explosion, not just supercritical mass. It has to have coincidence and concurrence with the ley lines and energy structure movements of the magnetism on Earth. You have to be on a ley line that runs north to south, and those are static, and most major cities are on them. Tokyo is not on one, so that's why they didn't hit Tokyo. If you're going to hit a samurai nation, you think you'd hit your main population center. Well, that's why they didn't. They hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and they didn't hit them on the same day. Again, if you're fighting a samurai nation, you'd hit them over and over and over. You wouldn't stop until they surrender or you obliterate them. So they did it on different days because the ley lines are moving from east to west. There's lines that come out of the equator, and they split negative and positive fields. And the negative field, as opposites attract, goes towards the South Pole, or excuse me, the North Pole, which is actually the Antarctic. And then the positive goes to the north, what people call the North Pole, which is actually the negative pole of the Earth. And so as those ley lines of the static and the moving line cross, you have to detonate the device precisely within 1 second degree of arc north, south, east, west, and 1 second in that, within 1 second of that cross. So that's why they were doing, you would think with all the nuclear testing they've done, okay, you see it goes boom, and you see how much, 1 megaton or 100 megaton or whatever, or 100 kiloton, you know what it does. Okay, now we got fusion, we tested that, okay, that works. Hydrogen bomb, okay, that works. At a point you get, okay, what's the point anymore? Okay, we did it underground, we did it under the water, we did it over the water, we did an airburst, we out in space. Okay, we've got it down. Why do you keep going? The reason is they're figuring out all of the different precision of the ley lines of the Earth and the movements of the moving lines that have come out of the equator. And so that, from my understanding, is why Duncan Cameron and Preston Nichols actually got off the Eldridge and then got back on, was to get, and that's really the cover story, was radar invisibility, or a side product, so to speak. Like, you get in martial arts to learn self-defense, and then as you're in, it becomes a side product of what it really turns out to be about.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. Something you mentioned earlier when you were reporting on the truck that was carrying their arms, you said SSBN. Was that correct? And what does that stand for?
SS is in submarine. Okay, SS means submarine. Ballistic is the B, and N is nuclear.
Thank you. Good to know. And I'm sure that somebody, because I felt like we'd left that hanging out there, so we want to obviously nail as much as we can. How are you so informed on the ley lines and the way they have to point northeast, southwest, for example? We know obviously the crossing point, that's where a lot of the churches are built today. They took down the original temples because, they know that's the most powerful part, the point of power. And so much has been covered up and taken from us. But how do you know? Where did you get that information yourself?
Well, actually, it was researching history. Like you, I was interested why churches were built, where they were, castles, why certain satanic rituals are done at certain places, why the pyramids are where they are, and all of that. So I researched and learned about ley lines, and then in once I learned about the domes and see the same thing, they're building domes on ley lines. And so it has to do with energy and power and production of energy and all of those things all tie together, especially if you're going to do something like CERN and you want to open up a portal to a parallel Earth. In that case, you need to be on a very pivotal congruence of ley lines to be able to do that. Not just a super collider is going to do it sitting anywhere. It has to be on a line where you can open a transdimensional doorway. And so that's why CERN is built where it is. And these are key things. And then there's a lot of works that I read in regards to that. So,
Yeah.
looking into ley lines and researching all of this for a long time.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate that and value that feedback. Thank you so much. And I'd already written down CERN, and because obviously looking at the ley lines and the testing and the explosions, etc. And then, that we know this harvesting of energy. We know that these people, who use science as their kind of facade, but monstrous, horrific, non-persons, soulless ones, who, create these experiments, Sun being one of them, the collider, trying to split the atom, or so they try to pass it off that way. Why do you think there is a statue? I've seen it, I've looked at this, of Shiva at the front of CERN, the building.
Yeah, that's because, again, you're trying to tap into frequency, and that determines the frequency of the earth you're trying to tap into. They wanted to bring demonic beings and fallen angelics and all kinds of things here. And Shiva is the destroyer. With Vishnu, I believe, is the other Hindu god. They're supposed to dance a dance called the Tandali that brings about the destruction of the world, which is exactly what the Cabal wants. They wanted a thermonuclear war, go in their domes and have all their seed banks already stocked and all of that, and come out after everything was gone and inherit the earth, and after they wiped out of everybody else on the surface and everything else on the surface of the earth. So that's what they wanted. So they actually did ceremonies in front of that statue for that reason, to set those energies in place. Satanic dances and satanic sacrifices were done as well inside the facility. And recently, there's I think it was a 13-year-old young man who's a super genius, did the quantum equations and all kinds of physics and things, and showed that CERN opened an 11-minute window into a parallel Earth. He proved it and did a huge stage lecture. So really fascinating things are going on. He actually said they did do it, and they did open it up. And it's not just a super collider to find the Higgs boson and a few other things. It actually was built to do precisely this, and it has a ring inside of it, a huge technology that is built specifically to do that on purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going back to the Shiva, there are some people think that that is a representation of Ea or Enki, one of the Anunnaki gods. What are your thoughts on that and your information on that, if any?
Well, Inky and Enlil. are two of the Anunnaki, or those from the stars that came, as it's translated, in the Sumerian times. And they're a species of tall, red haired, uh, six fingered, six toes beings that are about 8 to 9 feet tall, usually, from a solar system that orbits ours called Nemesis. It's a brown dwarf with 7 planets. The outer 3 planets, their home planet Nebru, and then the other outer 2 planets, Helion and Argota, come through our system every 25,972 years. It's what causes the Earth's wobble on its axis. As it comes up from beneath the ecliptic at an 86-degree angle, the poles are matched up, so light forces repel. So it causes the Earth to be pushed over, and then as it leaves, it rotates back. And so it comes up behind us, it goes in behind the sun in a 4-year journey, and comes out between us and the sun. It didn't originally do that. It originally used to come out between Saturn and Jupiter, but the Orion Syndicate changed the orbit so that it would create a change in the Earth's axis and misalign the pyramids that were creating a energy grid so that they couldn't come on Earth. And at this time, Earth was actually a moon of a planet called Tiamat that lay between Mars and Jupiter. And they crashed one of the planets into that planet and destroyed it. And lots of Mars's atmosphere, and then Mars got the two liquid halves of the mantle of Tiamat, and it got Phobos and Deimos. And then another planet crashed into an outer planet of ours and created the Kuiper Belt. So that's the remains of Tiamat, or the asteroid belt, and then one of the some of the planets, and there's a small planetoid in the Kuiper Belt called Ceres. And then the Earth got displaced and came into orbit where it is now. But the people on at that time here, because of that, built a energy grid so that they couldn't come and mess with Earth. So they changed the orbit of Nemesis so that it would come in and be between the Earth and the Sun when it came out, to create catastrophic situations on Earth. And also, the Anunnaki have been using different types of gold, monatomic being one of them, so they use about 100% of their mind. And they're extremely brilliant and extremely technologically advanced. They're the stormtroopers for the Orion Syndicate. And they were captured and enslaved by the Orion Syndicate through a nuclear war. So their planet is irradiated. To mitigate radiation, you have to use monatomic gold. Their solar system doesn't have gold. So they come to Earth every time they pass through to mine gold. And of course, being very advanced and looking at us as less than them, essentially ants or vermin, they decided to make us mine the gold. So they built these huge microwave devices on Earth. You can see them all over Africa. They look like a flower, just like the microwave, little tiny microwave you have in a microwave oven generator system. But it's called a maser. It cuts a beam into the Earth till you get to the gold seam. Well, then you need somebody to go down there to remove the gold. So that would be humans. But the problem is very quickly the humanity fought back and didn't want to be enslaved to mine gold and crawled down in the ground. And so in the process of that resulted in the Pyramid Wars and the misaligning of the pyramids and the destruction of the Uyghur civilization at that time, which was in what is now the Gobi Desert, which they nuked. It was a tropical rainforest, and the Sahara, which they nuked. And that's why you can find what looks like green clear obsidian glass, volcanic glass in those areas, because anytime you drop a nuke, like even in the coral atolls and things, you can find that where we drop nukes, because it creates the sand into this green volcanic clear glass, but it's radioactive, of course. Mm. And so also all over the Sahara and the Gobi, pretty much anywhere you dig down very far, you're going to find remnants of civilization. It was a vast civilization. Mm. And still the humans wouldn't do it. So then they created mankind. On their next come in through, they created genetic engineering dens, Gardens of Eden to take the genetics of humans. They took two humans, put them in there, and then from the female took out her egg, erased all the genetic material in it, and crossed the Alpha Draco, Cro-Magnon, and Neanderthal, and created a species that was strong, powerful, and obedient to mine gold. But in the process of that with Cro-Magnon, you're talking about a species that's an animal still. It's oversold. And so they got an oversold type being. And so they did this a total of 13 times trying to upgrade it to get a being that had a little more intelligence, which they did on the 13th try. So they got 13 different models of this mankind type being. That's why you read in Genesis, we, that's not plural. Triune nature, but not plural. We, the gods, we, the Anunnaki, shall create them in our image. So mankind. They created mankind, which was Cain, and not genetically related to Abel at all. And so you can tell because then later when he kills Abel, he's told to kill Abel, he's afraid to go out because they will get him. Well, who, the Cro-Magnons and the Neanderthals? Or he says, don't worry, I'll put a mark on your forehead. Maybe the Cro-Mag or the Neanderthal might be able to read that. Unlikely, though. But if they saw that mark and they were able to recognize it, they go, you need to be killed because you followed the Dark Ones. So they would have killed him. So he and his children, his sons, find wives. Well, they find wives that are pretty much like them. Who's that? Humanity. Humanity is already out there. So now we wind up in a situation where we are today, where you have a species that looks very much like us, that has a dominant in the gene pool, where human is recessive. So you can have a human born to a family that is all actually another species. You have two species breeding within each other. And so that's really the message of Christ on the Sermons on the Mount when he came, was to not marry these things, because they're being oversold with 13 oversouls for over 2 billion people now. You're talking over 2 billion mankind. Divide 13 by 2 billion. How much of a soul do they have? What, 100 millionth or something? Very smidgenal. So that's your moral compass. If you have 100 millionth of a moral compass of a human being, then you're going to be able to do things like become a psychopath and a killer and a murderer, because you don't feel much of anything when you kill a child or kill a person or torture somebody. And so that's actually what they were looking for in the first place, is somebody that would do whatever they're told to do without saying that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not, you shouldn't do those things. And so that's where we sit today, and a lot of the situations we have are due to all of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you've also got crypto hominids here too, secret groups that have come from other places, and a secret group that's from Earth as well, as from Earth as we are, as human beings, that is extremely intelligent and is kind of running things behind the scenes, in league with mankind and in league with the Orion Syndicate, as David Icke says, the reptilian shapeshifters, and they're all in league, like Paul Simon said, a loose affiliation of millionaires and billionaires, and the miracle in the baby carriage, the bomb in the baby carriage is viewed from a distant star. So that kind of gives you their outlook on things. A bomb in a baby carriage is a miracle. So this is the kind of gods they follow and the kind of beings they are. So that's kind of where we are, and dovetails into tons of the research and things I've learned.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you for sharing your thoughts, your independent thoughts on Ea, Enki, Enlil, Anunnaki. Everyone is entitled to have their own ability to research, read, learn. And I'm not here to dispute you. I'm here to share you and your information. And thank you for your perspective. And also on the SS Eldridge, that was important too, especially because I'm working with somebody who believes, that he was very much a part of that. And like I said to you at the beginning, I've been kept away from people doing my work over these years, and now I'm just completely open to hearing everyone's thoughts because we, as an individual soul spark of the Creator, need to put things together for ourselves and figure this out for ourselves. I truly do believe that. So we need to be presented with information that we can, take down, to see what resonates, what works, and. But like you said, your usual wife, 98% of the time for her, for her
Yeah.
discernment, right?
Yeah. So, I will say that, a lot of people look at one or the other, Inky or Enlil, as a good cop. It's a good cop, bad cop. They play good cop, bad cop really well. So, I know a lot of people think Inky is a good guy or Enlil's a good one or that. And then also you have some other things involved with Inky and Enlil, where you have possession going on by fallen angelics at the same time within them. So there's a lot of kind of kind of like the President Autopin we had, where at the beginning he had been vrilled, and so he was a vrill, and so he wasn't really himself anymore until that died, and then they had to replace it with a cyborg.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Let's get into some of the dumb information, the deep underground military bases that you've been researching from at least 2018, and you are the main source of information for me from that time. And for many also, I know you were there showing your maps and showing the explosions underground. We were going to mention something on the UK maps, the UK military bases, but can you just go ahead and share whatever you'd like? Okay, you're on mute.
So I just finished editing this out. It's not been proofread and edited yet, but it's the updated version of the UK dumps. And I have to preface the UK with the fact that you have underground facilities going back to the Roman Empire, going back, they go under Hadrian's Wall, go under the Channel, go to France. You've got stuff going back thousands and thousands and even millions of years. So you've got tunnels and ancient underground facilities. What I'm talking about here are the deep state facilities. So with that, let me go ahead and oh, I'm sharing the Word document. Let me go ahead and pull up the PDF. It'll read nicer. I'll pull that up just a second. Give me a moment, please.
Yeah, no, take your time. No, I'm really pleased to be able to have this information and share because it's an extremely important aspect of current happenings. And people, again, are really kind of focusing more on their own individual thoughts, research, putting together what they think is happening because I think that the time of, following, I mean, we should listen to everybody, not just follow one person. That's insane to me. That's that whole kind of you know, lording over someone. It just doesn't work for me at all.
So, of course, there's your flag.
Hmm.
Oops, a little fast. So, and there's essentially what the UK is. You have Ireland, Wales, Scotland, England, and Shetland Islands. And so the primary facilities, I'll just kind of, I don't know how much time you want to read this whole thing would take a while, but is interconnected by tunnels. All of the dumps are interconnected by tunnels of various types, including maglev, which are magnetic levitating trains that in a vacuum tube that can go in Mach speeds.
Yeah.
And they're saying like 4 or 5 Mach. That's old. It's 17 now. I know
Uh-huh.
that sounds insane to people. And then they have tunnel systems like at some of the facilities that can actually go off world through a portal. So they have those like at Area 51 and at Dulce and some of the other ones. So Bentwangers, Brindleshram Forest. It's a 48-3 type base. And Peter Paget, I don't know if you know of him, talked about it in this video, in this YouTube. And he went into what happened at this dump. It was a nuclear stockpile. And the ET-3 craft came down and neutralized it by turning the plutonium and the uranium into iron, liquid iron. And it ran down, and it required an extensive cleanup. The liquid iron cut down some trees. It's hot, burning liquid iron.
Hmm.
And so it dripped down onto the ground and ran through the trees and had to be carted off. And it was still somewhat radioactive. So it was a really messy, messy, messy situation. And so, unbeknownst to the British, the U.S., this is the time frame I was telling you about, and the USSR had their nuclear arsenal also turned, in some cases, to gold or iron. So the world had been disarmed because they were getting ready to do what they want to do, which is create a nuclear war. So you can see here in regards to the map where Bentwaters and Rendlesham are, and the facility in regards to some other facilities as well, and the basic location in the UK.
There was a name on the other page, Miles and his bases project, Miles Johnston. So I know him. He's coming on my
Okay,
channel. He's coming on my channel next week. He's been working a long time in disclosure. He's an Irishman. He makes me laugh. He's a great character, and he's done a lot of work over these years. So interesting to see
awesome,
him.
awesome. I'll have to catch that. And now you can see the interconnection of the facilities here that work with Bentwaters. So you have Woodridge, Waterbeach, Lakenheath, and Lakenheath also now I've learned has TR craft underneath it inside the anti-gravitics. Yes, go ahead, Dani.
Guess what? So at my last conference in Eastbourne, England, here where I'm living in England, so at the town of Eastbourne, which is over the sea. So on my conferences, we always do a sky watch, because there's craft everywhere. They're there the whole time now. And there was over 2,000 people out on what we call the Wish Tower Hill overlooking the sea. And we're all there. We're calling in the craft. We've planned for at least two to come over, and they're there. And then at one point, and it was beautiful. This military craft came over. Of course, most people think it's a UFO, but we knew it wasn't. We knew it was a military craft. Alex Collier said it could have been a TR-9. And anyway, it was stunning. It went over, it flew low, it was triangular. We got great photos of it. People are going crazy. It was a beautiful moment. It's ever so exhilarating, Jean, when that happens. And I had absolutely no way of knowing or proving where that craft was from until one of my friends, Diana, came to me and said that her boss works at the RAF, Royal Air Force Base. It's called Lakenheath, and they wanted us to know where that craft came from. So I love that it's on that list. And RAF Lakenheath also services USA and UK personnel,
Yeah.
military. Yeah,
So thank you for correcting that and giving me the correct pronunciation. I'm not good on pronunciations. Lakenheath.
that's all right. It's perfect.
Does make more sense than Lakenheath. I didn't see the word lake in there.
Yeah.
So those facilities are all interconnected as well. And there's Bentwaters looking down. And again, you can see some of the symbology that they love, the Masonic symbology in
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
They love doing that. They have to do that. It
Have
seems they
to.
can't withstand building something without that.
No, it's almost like
And
Star Fort design too, isn't it? Off to the left.
yes, they
Yeah.
always do this. It's like I'm laughing because Trump tore down the east wing of the White House and it broke the Masonic, I'll just use the correct term,
Yeah.
satanic sigils.
And the flow of energy absolutely interrupts it. It puts it off kilter, doesn't it? It changes it completely. Yeah.
completely broken now. So that was brilliant. So these are what they now say are no longer in use, which is not true. It is in use. They like it to look abandoned, so they leave it looking quite abandoned
Yeah.
in the daytime. And the dumb and the surrounding access is mostly now uh, through the forest area, so that they can make that stay looking very abandoned. There's also a graze, in this case I'm referring to, is that a reticuli, not the program life form base, attached to Lake and Heath and Bentwaters.
God.
And in that facility, it's was, until it's been cleared by the Alliance, used to create Mark Ultra. It was a ninth circle child sacrifice for achrome harvesting and organ harvesting.
Okay, so a ninth circle facility, and this is Bentwaters specifically you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay. May I ask how you know that?
That's put out by, what was his name? Uh, it'll come, I think I have it in this decode. We'll get the name in here as he comes up. Uh, yeah, we're coming close to it because it's now mentioning he was in Project Mannequin. His name will come up here. So the next one is Berkshire and Newbury under the Berkshirean REF Green Common. Am I pronouncing that one right or wrong?
That's Berkshire, and I've never heard of it.
Berkshire.
And
Thank you.
Newbury, Berkshire, and Berkshire, because it's called the Shires, Hertfordshire,
Okay.
Berkshire, Cambridgeshire, Oxfordshire. So it'd be Berkshire, Newbury, under Berkshire and RAF. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And that's primarily anti-gravity storage and crafter there. But it also had a MI6 project, mannequin mind control and genetic manipulation for A1 hybrid programs, as well as advanced nuclear engineering research.
Wow.
And so anytime you're dealing with anti-gravitics, now you're dealing with advanced nuclear, what is called aneutronic, where they can now fuse atoms together to create electricity directly without creating an explosion or heat. Essentially, like you're creating an EMP, but you're not having the explosion. And that's looking down on Berkshire or
Fascinating.
Berkshire. And then this is the next one is Peasmore under the entire town. And that's an AL499 base. And this base is that whole area. It's massive. It's under all of that. And
Wow.
then that gives you the general location of where it is in the UK. So for those that know what that looks like, and there's looking down on the general area under the town. And it also houses nuclear weapons there. They also have done cloning experiments for mind control and embedding technology as well to create super soldiers. And this is some of this has been witnessed by a man named Barry King. It's the entrances and exits of the dome in Peasmore. So it's now verified that it's an NSA facility, and it houses grays as well as runs genetic experiments. And that's, again, Gray Z reticuli type. Yes, here's the name, James Casbolt. And Agent James Casbolt, MI6C NSA agent, was stationed at Peasmore. Saw a bipedal wolf alien from the Canis Empire in Sirius. They feed off fear and hatred, and this species and its human collaborators is at the Peasmore Dome. And this is part of the projects that the Cabal had, is once they nuke the Earth, whatever's left, they loosen all of these creatures, these chimeras they created to ravage what's left of the living on Earth, was their idea. That's why they do that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Berkshire RAF Welford next. And then Buckingham Palace. So big surprise that it has a sacrificial area with tunnels to all the UK facilities, and a large tunnel to Buckingham Palace goes to Whitehall and Parliament. So that's looking down, and again, you can see your symbols.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
can't. They just can't do anything with them. You know,
Uh-huh.
we have to do this. We can't resist it.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
that's the next one is under the small town of Zenner in Cornwall, and this is a facility near an ancient stone outcropping called Menental, or stone layout called Menental, and it creates a quantum energy grid. And this is from Casbold again. Um, this Zenner Cornwall Dome has a hidden access tunnel inside that castle, and these are the Menental stones.
Hmm.
And Aleister Crowley, who started the Satanic Church, used to work on the grid lines there uh, to create energy quantum grid system to Montauk that we were talking about earlier. So this is all tied together with Montauk and Camp Hero and all of this stuff. And so the next one is Cornwall St. Ives. It has a sea access dome for submarines, which gives access to the world submarine system through an ancient sea gate. The dome, and by ancient, I'm talking this was created by the Atlanteans. So this dome is off the shore of the seaside town, and many people in the town have implants and are abducted and then later returned and don't aware, a lot of them, that they even have implants. So not a really fun place to be living, I would say. And so there's St. Ives, the nice little town. It looks like a nice little town.
Mm.
And again, according to James Casbolt, one can go to lakes in Peru, lakes in Malaysia, the NSA Dam under Penang Island. As a child, he went on missions to a location under Penang Island from St. Ives. And the death of a celebrity in Zenner was at that time attributed to Aleister Crowley's conjurings and his satanic rituals. And so there's lots and lots of sightings of I'll just use the traditional, so they keep changing the name, UFO sightings. And a Cornwall police project, classified secret, had gone on where there was a dig and they found mass graves of children. That they had traced reports of many missing children in the area. And the poet D.H. Lawrence had lived at a small cottage and said he had heard explosions coming from deep underground in Zenner, obviously from the facility there.
Wow.
And then we have Cornwall, UK, the Carn Cottage, which is where Aleister Crowley spent a great deal of his time. And this is all interconnected with tunnel systems. So this looks very remote, but it's not because of the underground tunnel systems. It's abandoned now. This one is not really being used for anything. I don't know anybody that would even want to go in there. So it has a close connection to the Zeta Reticuli and the reptilians and Satanism, of course, because of what Aleister Crowley was doing there.
Mm.
And for example, one night he took a woman named he left a woman named Cox who died of a stroke, and her husband went insane and ended up in a Bodmin mental asylum. He said he saw a reptilian that had materialized inside the house, and Cox died of fright. And the police files pertaining to their death was stolen from the police station after that. So we see how the deep state, normal operations going on there.
Yeah.
And Alice Crowley was also at Montauk in New York and was working with that project when it was in full swing with the quantum energy grid lines from Montauk to Zenner to the Minotaur stones in ancient stones in Cornwall. So then we have Cloud House, and this one's for me is pretty disturbing. It's in East Knoll, Wiltshire. Is that correct? Probably
Yeah,
not.
Wiltshire. No, it's perfect. Wiltshire. Yeah.
Oh, I got that one right.
Did.
And that's now the castle, the Craig House, is connected with the Castle Craig at the McCanns, who are parents of the missing child Maddie McCann.
Yeah.
And the East Knoll Wiltshire Cloud House was owned by Aleister Crowley. and has an entrance to the dome inside the cloud house to this day.
Mm.
And it now is, according to James Casbolt, was assigned to track down. He was assigned to track down Belial, a demonic entity, in 2011, who was loose in the U.S. and had something to do with plasma beams to vaporize a policeman in Arizona. It was founded. Cloud House was founded by Peter McCann, Maddie's uncle. And according to Casbolt, at the time, the dumb facility at Cloud House, clones were destroyed and shape-shifting aliens, we know who those would be, take their place and infiltrate human society. So they get top dignitaries and replace them with shape-shifting aliens. I guess they have to come in contact with a person to be able to shape-shift them. So Cloud House is now, this is the disturbing part, an addictions treatment facility for the UK royal family.
My God.
Uh, that makes sense, though.
Uh-huh.
So rather disturbing. So people, specifically the royals, sponsored by Prince William, Kate Middleton, Duchess of Cambridge. In other words, her husband, Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, expected to become king. Of course, that didn't happen. Then we have what we were talking about is Lakenheath in Suffolk. This is a monsoon facility, Monsoon 1. It's 70 miles northwest of London, 25 miles from Cambridge. It's completely run now by the U.S. Air Force Liberty Wing and coordinates with Sandia Labs in New Mexico. So you're talking high-level anti-gravitic craft. You probably thought things like the Aurora class and those things here. Then we have Liverpool itself, which has miles of tunnels beneath and chambers for child sacrifice, acrum harvesting, satanic sacrifice under the Metropolitan Cathedral, which is full of Masonic symbology. Another area is underneath the Anglican Cathedral, and it also has the typical Masonic flooring and all of that. So here's the Metropolitan Cathedral. If you know your symbology,
Yeah, it's
boy,
so hideous, isn't it? I can't stand that. The sight of that building gives me the heebie-jeebies. But
yeah, that thing is laid out satanic as heck.
yeah,
So yeah, I would think it would give you that. It would certainly make my skin crawl being near that thing.
yeah, gross.
And there's the Anglican Cathedral, and that has tunnels connected to Buckingham Palace and all that other stuff. Then London itself is full of underground tunnels and a dome under it too. It is a CLC-1 base and under Westminster and Parliament. And this base has an area for demonics and sacrifice, practicing sacrifices. It has an intricate maze of tunnels under the entire city, expanding out of the city area. Primary access is under the new Victoria Tube Line, with many under the others, such as the Intercontinental Hotel on Park Lane, Buckingham Palace, Hyde Park Tube Station, which has an access to the maglev systems, with tunnels to stations to the residence and offices of Downing Street. This includes the offices of the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom and the Chancellor Executive and all the domes in Wales and Ireland. Downing Street was built by George Downing between 1682 and 1684. You can see him there, who was a spy for Oliver Cromwell and King Charles. So of course he's got to build those.
Jesus.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Wow.
And so there's 10 Downing Street. And James Casbolt said that underground parking garage, go down the elevator, there's a tube system that goes into the dumps there. It has an access there to a stargate to a planet in the Sirius star system.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find more information on that at this link right here. Oops, sorry. I didn't even touch you to do that. I just moved the mouse. That link right there.
Yeah.
And then James Casbolt, by the way, is genetically, like I said, they were doing at Montauk, and they do at these facilities, a machine cyborg enhanced super soldier Mark Ultra type being. He was to alert humanity to certain secrets. That was what he was created. And it was reported that he actually went to through that Stargate to the planet is believed to be Sirius B. in the of the Orion system. And there's an ancient facility on Sirius B in the sea floor of that planet, which is a pentagon within a pentagon, meaning there are 7 pentagons, one inside the other. And the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia is an exact replica of the ancient Pentagon on Sirius B. That's why it was built that way. And AI controls this facility, and it was doing an experiment to see which race had the greatest survival dynamics on this planet. That's what on Sirius B. It took people from different planets to see which one would have the greatest survival of all of those. So in each of these pentagons, it housed a different root race from within somewhere in the multiverse, and it would just go through experiments. And the AI found out that humans have the greatest survival dynamics, and that the original human form had the most perfect form in the universe. So there's some proof for people about what I've said about humanity again.
Yeah.
So James Caswell actually said this in an interview. He described the experiment and said that we will win. In other words, the humans will win. And for those that don't know, when Trump was inaugurated, he played the song Nason Dorma. He had it sung. And Nason Dorma means none shall sleep. And in the movie Sum of All Fears, at the end, Russia and the U.S. almost went to nuclear war. And it was just stopped at the last seconds. And after that, that song was playing, and they were going and eliminating the top people that created this on both sides, the deep state on both sides that made it almost happen while that song was playing. And at the end of the song, it says Vincero was the guy's name, supposedly. Vincero means I shall win. In other words, we, humanity, shall win. Sorry, I jumped way forward there. If I bump my mouse, it goes crazy here. So, where was I? Yeah, I think that's where I was.
That's where we were. Yeah.
Yeah, right there. So anyway, next we'll go to, there's a large series of hotels clustered on Park Lane that have access. The Intercontinental, as I said, the Hotel London, Park Lane, walking distance to Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace, of course, which is an easy walk to Hyde Park Tube Station, which also has access. So then we have Manchester, which has tunnels to Wales and Ireland, and was used for the purpose of acorn harvesting and human trafficking. It has many entrances in different areas, operating as a group or individually at times. And there are many of the hospitals, especially the Royal Infirmary, have a dome. So this is the Manchester Royal Infirmary that has a dome for all of the aforementioned projects. Then we go to Menwith Hill, and this is a space-based dome. And this now is in control of the Alliance completely. So this is now a White Hat facility.
Yeah.
And Oxfordshire, is that correct?
Yeah, Oxfordshire. Yeah, Oxfordshire.
Oxfordshire, Harwell Laboratories. This dome is directly under the laboratory. It's a research in quantum AI for medical and space applications. And that actually is a symbol of a non-terrestrial group, the way that building's laid out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a different angle of it. So Oxfordshire, Shrivenham. Am I pronouncing that one right?
We say Shrivenham. We wouldn't say the hand.
Shrivenham. Okay, it's good to get this correct. I like this. This is great. So the Watchfield Military Science College Defense Academy Institution has tunnel entrances and facilities under it. The Shrivenham Dome and tunnels are located between Shrivenham and Watchfield in the southern west corner of Oxfordshire, Vale of the White Horse. So again, you can see your symbology again.
Yeah. Yeah. Man.
And then we have Staffordshire. And if you're in the UK and you haven't heard of this, I'd be surprised. This is Porton Down, and this has a vast history of testing chemicals on humans and hybridization research. It's one of the most secretive establishments in the UK. It's the headquarters of the defense site. It's kind of like DARPA, for us. The Defense Science and Technology Laboratory, DSTL, and the sites and sits on the outskirts of an unsuspecting, I don't think they're unsuspecting English village at this point. If they're unsuspecting, they got to be brain dead. Like,
God.
or maybe they were exposed to it.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
I mean, every movie I've ever seen, the locals of that little city knew.
Right, right. Yeah.
So Porton Down has 6 levels going underneath it, including hybridization, Project Mannequin, which is again Mark Ultra Super Soldier program, testing on humans of chemicals and all kinds of inbred hybridization and chimera and all that other stuff. There was, of course, many conspiracy theories tied to it. I wouldn't say they're theories. Porton Down is the center of research into chemical and biological development, as well as the testing and procurement of scientific technology to enhance the UK's military and public benefit. Yeah, what public?
Yeah.
They're experimenting on the public.
My
It's
God.
like, yeah, it's like this is how they always do it. I mean, it's we're here for your protection.
Yeah.
Thanks, we'll do our own protection.
Yeah,
Go
sure.
away.
Exactly. Oh God.
Yeah, it still has chemical and nuclear storage. A nearby laborer was going through the woods and he found an iron plate digging in the woods for something or other. Who knows what? Of course, that's an escape hatch, and he opened up a ring and then opened it up, and it led to tunnels to modern Porton Downs. It was like I said, you're out in the middle of nowhere and you find a big, huge grate in the ground. I know swamps where there's a pillar of concrete coming out 10 feet up above the highest water with a steel grate on it. Same purpose.
Mhm.
So a lot of these tunnels are for Porton Downs are extremely old, going back to the Roman era and even to Atlantis and even earlier than that. Then we go to Strange Ways Prison, which is a Mark Ultra facility. It's under the prison. And most prisons, especially high level, dangerous people are put, have Mark Ultra facilities under there in the world, everywhere. So, in its over 100-year history, um, it has had a lot of riots and prison breaks and all this. So, this is the prison here you're looking in the picture there. So, it's due to what they're doing. So, you can see from these links, go look at those links and you'll find out a lot about this prison. And research into that prison is quite sordid and quite disturbing. And they've done a lot of terrible things there. Then we go to Westminster and the UK Parliament. That's a large underground area for rituals, tunnels to Buckingham Palace, Whitehall, and Windsor Castle, as well as a massive area for gold storage and many ancient artifacts. And there it is. So you've got massive stores of gold under there.
Mhm.
At least until they started bringing it back to Fort Knox because Trump said he was going to go look at Fort Knox.
Right, right. Yeah.
So maybe not now.
Yeah.
There was. And a lot of really ancient artifacts are stored under there, a lot of artifacts of power.
Uh-huh.
And then we have Whitehall Palace, the large underground area for rituals, refuge with large tunnels to Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, UK Parliament, and Balmoral Castle in Scotland.
Mhm.
And there's Whitehall again.
Mhm.
And then we go to Wiltshire, Corsham. I'm sure Wiltshire. Is it Corsham?
No, Wiltshire's perfect. Wiltshire, Corsham, yeah, computer center.
Ah, okay. Computer Center. Of course, it's a dome, which holds the blackmail to all the officials of the world. So it was tied to the one in Israel that they bombed, the Iranians bombed. It's another backup system. They love backups.
Oh
And
yeah.
so, yeah, so they've got all of the blackmail, all the stuff from Epstein and Branson and all of that stuff there. It's supposed to be one of the best kept secrets. I don't think so. If I'm talking about it, it's not that kept very well. So it's an active government bunker located at Peel Circus in Corsham. The above ground site consists of nothing more than a doorway into a mound of earth, as you can see, obscured by public view by a ring of trees and vegetation. Sometimes it's referred to as Corsham Computer Center. It's located at the eastern end of Tunnel Quarry, a huge underground stone quarry which was converted into an ammo dump in World War II.
Wow.
Then comes Wiltshire Rudloe Manor.
Rodlow Manor.
What is it?
Rodlow Manor.
Okay, thank you. This is underneath the Royal Air Force RAF base, formerly RAF Box. This base is outside of Bath, southern England, Rudloe Manor, near Corsham, Wiltshire, which for years the RAF Secret Service worked at espionage, counterintelligence, but also UFO investigations. There are many nasty demonic beings because of all the stuff they do under there. And this has tunnels that go all the way under Hadrian's Wall into France. And the area for there's has an area for the royal family for continuity of government, and 4,000 other people in the dome for our continuity of government. The dome is literally the British Area 51. They have downed alien craft for back engineering, do alien autopsies, alien interrogations, and much more. It's personally kept looking like it's derelict and abandoned to keep the privacy of the area. They actually sealed off some of the tunnels in 2005 and sold them at auction to keep that idea up for 1.5 million pounds to maintain the image that it's abandoned and not using it, selling it off. Sealed those tunnels up and sold them. It's completely connected to satellite surveillance systems. So here's a picture of the entrance. And this is how it looked in World War II, and controlling the Allied invasion. And then we go to Windsor Castle. The large underground areas for rituals, refuge with large tunnel systems to Buckingham Palace, Whitehall, UK, Parliament, Balmoral Castle in Scotland. Small tunnel systems go under Hadrian's Wall and then to the catacombs under Paris in France. So this stuff is all interconnected. It's amazing how everything is interconnected. And I got the higher picture so you can see more of the palace itself and see the symbols and things. And then we have York RFA Flyingdales. It has a small facility underneath it. It's part of the Royal Air Force early warning system. Castle, large underground area for rest. It has a area for rituals, refuge with large tunnels to Buckingham Palace, Whitehall, UK, Parliament, Balmoral Castle in Scotland. A small tunnel system goes under Hadrian's Wall, again, because it's connected to the previous system. So they look at it as one, and kind of part of the whole thing is all one thing is the way they look at this. And that's where Flyingdales is located. And we go to Ireland. There's Ireland. So in Mayo County, this is closest a picture I can find to where it is. There's an entrance from a feeder to the Ally. How do you say that one?
I don't know. Irish gets tricky because they have Gaelic pronunciations. So I don't know if it's Isla or Ailey or, Gronya. I mean, it's so difficult to know, but yeah, we'll just pretend we
I'll
know
call
what
it Ailey. I'll go with Ailey.
Ailey.
Ailey River. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Danny. River on the foothills of the Partry Mountains, 12 miles east of Westport, while heading to Lake Cara. Ancient facility. This facility is 1,000 years old. And then Station Island, and this is a high-level SRA Ninth Circle sacrifice area. And of course, you've got your symbols. We all know what we're looking at.
Yeah.
They have to do this, don't they? They just can't
Help
do
themselves.
anything. It's like
Yeah.
unbelievable. Then in Scotland, as aforementioned several times, Balmoral Castle. It's a sacrifice with a large tunnel to Windsor Castle. And then we go to Wales. And there's Wales. Brecon. Is it Brecon?
It's Brecon beacons. I've ridden horses across those beacons.
Oh,
Brecon beacons.
nice.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Brecon Beacons.
Yeah.
Thank you. Brecon Beacons. This is so ancient. They don't even know when it was built.
Oh my
It's that
God.
old. So, yeah, the elite intelligence organization called Group 58 runs this dump. The group was formed by Margaret Thatcher in the 1980s at, to work at the sites of crashed ET craft in Britain. Even though Group 58 was formed by Margaret Thatcher, it is a UN group. The 58 and called George, a contact a UN identity card with UN holograms on it, drove to D is a person, to a clandestine meeting on a motorway service. It was here that George showed D photographs of human mutilations and that's all done by humans with back engineered craft. They had found near heavily guarded Brecon Beacons Dome in Wales. There are photos that show a girl 16 and a boy of 20 who had those things done. So this is what they do to pretext Project Bluebeam to show how evil the aliens that are coming would be and be scared of them. So D had nightmares for a week from what he saw. So anyway, I'll let people read that story for themselves. So next we go to Brides Bay in Wales. And this is again by the MI6 agent Peter Paget in his book, The Welsh Triangle. And he reports that aliens have set up a base beneath Stack Rock at St. Bride's Bay. And I actually do know that one is actually correct too. So that's Stack Rock. And so that's all I got on what's in the UK for actual dumps and not the thousands of tunnels and little facilities and things going back so long ago they don't even know when.
Goodness, it's just incredible. Thank you so much. And I believe that James Casbolt was a colleague of the now deceased Max Spears. And
Yes, I agree. I believe that's what I've heard too.
yeah, and I actually last week, it's interesting how things come at a certain time and all information comes together. So mentioned to you that Miles Johnston from the Bases Project, he's been doing this work for a long time. He's the Irishman. So I'm meeting him on Friday and I'm going to bring him to my channel to share his information. And then there's you bringing in James Casbolt and Miles, I'm talking to specifically about his work and Max Spears. And it is said that James Casbolt and Max Spears worked together as super soldiers. There was some bloodline sharing, there was some information. And then I saw also Carrie Cassidy, who I've never met. And I watched her interviewing James and Max Spears on a video that somebody sent me. A guy called Steven sent me. So it's so interesting. And that same day, I saw Max Spears' video on regular YouTube. And then this guy Steven sent me directly. So I'm like, well, somebody really wants me to pull all this information together. And I think it's all going to tie in with the Montauk project, which obviously some of what you showed does. And people try and guide people at certain times to bring people and different people and information together. It's fascinating. I also wanted to mention that, people will be like, well, how come, Windsor Castle and Buckingham Palace and Balmoral and, Balmoral's in Scotland and, how do they manage the tunnels? Well, with these maglevs, magnetic levitation trains, think bullet train Japan or the French TGV, but much faster, much, much, much faster. And it's old news to those of us who've been studying for a long time. Have you ever seen physically a maglev, Jean?
No, I have not actually. I would love to, but I have never. And I do know everything you said about Max Spears and Casbolt and all that checks with everything I know as well. That's precisely. And I have done a few interviews, roundtables with Carrie Cassidy, and talked to her about some of that, and it checks pretty much with everything she puts out too.
I mean, that lady has been around a long time, and I do not believe that she's CIA and FBI. I'm so bored of people saying this because it keeps people apart. I also wanted to say about some of the ETs, of course, I'm not going to debate you. I want to hear what you believe and what you're sharing. And, we all have individual information we've been given. I've been given information that says the Draconis or the Draco and the Sakaar reptilians are no longer here. I've been told that the Mitra and the Zeta Reticuli grey ETs, and a couple of others, the Naboo from the Orion system, are also not here. I've been told that they are not doing mutilations, experimentations, cannibalistic, rituals. And if we look at some of the information there, it's from 2008, with James. So, I mean, there's a potential that this is actually correct. That potentially the ETs that were here, that were harming humanity, that came via, if you want to, like Dwight Eisenhower, for example, or others, that where agreements were made a long time ago, 40s and 50s, that potentially that all checks out too. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that most of those groups have left due to the alliances essentially won, and so they've left. And now any mutilations like the face stealers we saw in South America is the deep state doing it, trying to get their Project Bluebeam and to keep the fear up of an alien invasion. But that's also now in the hands of the alliance, from my understanding too. So it'll be a way to get disclosure where it will turn out that they're not bad guys; they're the good guys. So obviously, turning our nukes into iron and gold to keep us from nuking ourselves, that's not bad guys. And with all the craft that we've brought down and tortured and interrogated their peoples, they could turn this planet to dust in a blink of an eye. They have technology and weapons that can vaporize a planet, break the atomic bonds, and all you have is basic elements floating around. So they don't go across billions and millions of light years in a blink of an eye and be all that aggressive and terrible and evil. The ones that are the low level ones that are not advanced and not in that, the bad 4% in the falling galaxies like the Milky Way, the Orion Syndicate, and that, yeah, but that's the vast minority, and most of that's now under control too. And our solar system was in quarantine to protect that from coming out of here. What's left on Earth from flowing back out into the universe, because most of the universe, that war is done in most of the universe. All of those groups, the Maitri and all of that, they're quarantined in their own little solar system now, way out on the edge of the universe. And there's the war, the fallen angelics, all of that's done everywhere except on Earth. And it's to keep that done and sealed in here. So if human, which that's why the AI analyzed and found that we're the most survival capable. And that's why they went after us. And so now we're in the process of winning that war. We're very, very, very close. 80% plus. It's actually close to 87% now of the dumps in the world are. And that's a massive thing because, I mean, I personally know of over 340 in the U.S., and I'm always learning more. Like I've learned now that Area 51, Dulce, the Four Corners region, all the way up under Lake Mead, all the way up large parts of Nevada, Arizona, parts of Colorado, is one vast underground city, very deep down, an ancient facility. So there's all kinds of craft. And David Blair, in interview with Dr. Sala, had talked about an ancient ship that had crashed into the ocean, into the sea, that was there at that time near White Sands, and it was in the sand. And then when they built the facility there, they found that craft, and then that craft worked with David Blair, and he became the vessel for its consciousness till they came and rescued it. Could be part of what Three Eye Atlas is all about. So there's so much going on. We're in such an amazing time. So it's just fantastic to see all this coming out. Back to you,
Yeah.
Danny.
Oh my gosh, and it's David Adair. David Adair, and God love him. I'm getting him back on my channel soon with Emery Smith. I had David Adair speak at my conference last year in Colorado. I love David, and I agree with you. I think myself, my independent thought is because when you with someone like David Adair, when you can feel like you and I can feel things in people, right? And you can
Yeah.
feel Pithalum, you can feel this other energy frequency with him, and she is feminine and he is a male, and you can feel the difference, the pulsing. And I spent time just hanging out. Oh, he's so funny, honestly. He's got such a great laugh. I've spent 2 hours on the phone on a Friday night with David. Not to mention, obviously, speaking at my conference and also here on my channel. And yeah, he's beautiful. And I think the Three Eye Atlas, I do believe that there is an intelligence, a plasma being similar to what David has living with him. And her name is Pithalim that lives with him. Her name is Pithalim. Yeah, so I think that too. I agree with you. So, well, this has been really lovely. I've looked forward to this and I'm so glad we did it. And I'm so grateful to you. And I know that people are going to be really happy to see you here on my beautiful channel. And those that have never, heard of your work in any kind of great detail will obviously have something else to think about and, consider. And so thank you so much, Jean. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or words for the beautiful audience that will see this?
Yeah, just know that it's all coming down and we're very close to the end, and it's a marvelous time. We're going to see a whole new world very soon where hidden technologies that have been hidden for hundreds of years, and the cabal that's been ruling this earth, the Satanism, all this stuff is the child trafficking and the terrible things done to children. All this is coming to an end, and so know that there's a lot to be hopeful for and a lot to look forward to. And with that, I just say thank you and God bless.
Thank you, Jean, and God bless. God bless you too. Thank you so much. And to the beautiful audience, thank you for watching. Thank you. And as always, my name is Dani Henderson, and I do send you love from my heart to yours. Thank you, Jean.